It's the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Welcome in. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We will be with you here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. And, you know, it is the Monday Mirror, so we'll be looking back at a lot. It's a big weekend, man. A lot going on. Happy to be able to share it all with you all today. Wade, what's up?
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. You said it best. It was a busy weekend and a lot to tap into, which means it should be a fantastic show on this Monday here.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can pull that off. In the second hour, we will be visiting with VALAIR SHABILLA. Time to talk a little footy. The Nashville Soccer Club is getting preseason activity fired up, and so I think BJ Callahan had a media availability over the weekend. They've had a signing here, and so VALAIR is going to get us up to speed on NSC and why we should expect this season to be better. So I think we should expect it to be better because we're not sure it can be any worse. But at any rate, VALAIR is going to give us all the good stuff on that. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. Tennessee men and women both had successful weekends after tough weeks. And also Ben's favorite sport. I don't know if he would admit it or not, but Ben's favorite sport, baseball. The Vols are less than 5 weeks away from getting their season underway, as they will obviously be defending the Men's College World Series championship. So looking forward to checking in with Ben here in the next segment as well. We'll talk a little college football. We got a little bit of time before the national championship game, but at least we know who's playing in it. But man, it's this lag, Wade. I mean, you played your semifinals on Thursday and Friday, and you're not going to play your championship game until a week from tonight. But it's I don't know if that's a plus or a minus or what you do about it to hold the schedule that they're trying to hold, but it's a little odd to me.
A little odd, but, on the flip side, gives everybody a chance to rest and recover and, at least attempt to give us a better quality in terms of on the field product. Who knows how that will really play out, but at least give the effort. And yeah, we started this thing ages ago. I do like this much better than the previous deal where you had the 4-week layoff before you even played the semifinal. It's been fun monitoring the playoff from basically 2 weeks after the regular season ended, at least.
Yeah, that was and has been good. Absolutely. We'll have some other college football stuff to talk about in addition to the playoffs, like a way too early odds making for who your 2026 national champion stands to be. Yeah, we'll be getting into that. We'll be getting into some NFL, obviously. Super Wild Card Weekend officially wraps up tonight in Arizona as Minnesota takes on the host Los Angeles Rams for obvious reasons. But we'll talk about everything leading up to tonight and also another coaching change in the National Football League. We'll get into that as well. Again, a lot of college hoops over the weekend, a lot of professional hoops over the weekend. Big win for the local team, and we will get into all of that and more here over the next couple of hours. So looking forward to doing so. Again, plenty to get into. Wade, I reckon we should probably go ahead and do that. So let's give the people this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Before we tap into the Monday rundown, I want to remind you that it is brought to you, as always, by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County. So give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831, or you can visit zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Before we get into the rundown, real quick, speaking of Zion Christian Academy, want to mention that the boys and girls basketball teams out there will be hosting their inaugural Martin Luther King Day Classic. 6 basketball games out there on Monday starting at 11, including the host Lady Eagles and Eagles and the Lady Raiders and Raiders from Richland, among others. There's an article on the website at mainstreetmurray.com that gives you the full schedule for next Monday. But yeah, MLK Day Classic next Monday. Be sure and check that out and try to get out, see some good high school basketball. 6 games in one place next Monday, starting at 11.
Yeah, we buried the lead there, Mo. You got the inauguration, and yeah, you got the national championship game, but you got the ZCA you got the Grizzlies playing their annual MLK Day game. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves. It's ZCA MLK Classic. Should be a lot of fun.
It should
a lot of
be.
local teams.
Yep, absolutely. Women's basketball from Friday. Belmont finished off Illinois Chicago 67-52. We were giving you updates during the course of the show last Friday. That was your final. The Lady Bruins with a 15-point victory in Missouri Valley Conference play. College football on Friday evening, as we mentioned, Ohio State doubles up Texas 28-14, advancing to the first 12-team CFP championship game. Saturday action, women's basketball. Austin Peay with a 69-58 win over Bellarmine. It was Western Illinois down in Tennessee State, 88-67. Lipscomb with an 83-73 win over West Georgia. Middle Tennessee State's women extended their streak to 33 straight Conference USA victories with a 69-35 win over Jacksonville State. In men's play Saturday, Belmont with an 84-79 win over the Sycamores of Indiana State. It was Missouri 75, Vanderbilt 66. Tennessee State downs Western Illinois 72-52. Queens with a 67-60 win over Austin Peay. Lipscomb bounced back from its loss to Queens with an 86-67 win over West Georgia. Middle Tennessee State defeated Jacksonville State 81-64. And Tennessee goes out to Austin, picks up a 74-70 win over Texas.
Good win for Tennessee. Also a good win on Friday night. We'll talk more on it later, but Ohio State defeats Texas in semifinal number 2. 28-14 was your final in that one. As Mo mentioned earlier in the show, NBA action from the weekend. It was the Grizzlies knocking off the T-Wolves 127-125. Good show down there. Saturday night, man, I tried my best, folks. You can't blame me. I was in the building and I was cheering for the Preds, but not very pretty. Did get to see Ovechkin score, though. He's 22 shy of the all-time record, chasing the great one there. But it was the Capitals 4 and the Preds 1 Saturday night at Bridgestone Arena. As we touched on earlier, NFL playoff action in the designated Houston Texans game. They did what they did. They did what they did last year, and they beat a team that underestimated them a little bit, and they knock off the Chargers 32-12 in the night game. Pittsburgh, no real interest in playing football, at least until the second half, as Baltimore cruises 28-14. Women's college basketball from the weekend. It was Tennessee defeating Arkansas 93-63. Belmont on top of Valpo 67-53. And that takes us to our schedule for today.
Mm-hmm. It does. And again, check your local listings because we still got a lot of schools that did not go to school today. So Cheatham County is scheduled to play a doubleheader at Fairview tonight with the girls playing at 6. Double check that before you head out to Western Williamson County. Also, Blackman is at Laverne in a doubleheader. It is Clarksville Academy at Nashville Christian. Knowledge Academies at the Tennessee Heat, and Red Boiling Springs is at Westmoreland. Again, those are all doubleheaders, all girls starting at 6 and all subject to change. So beware. Women's basketball action, 6 o'clock tonight. You can see it on the SEC network. Vanderbilt goes to 6th ranked and undefeated LSU. Again, that's a 6 o'clock start. You can see it on the SEC network. Doubleheader action, women first, then guys. 4 o'clock, it's Mississippi College at Trevecca. At 5:30, Fisk is at Bethel. I don't know if that's a doubleheader or if that's women only, but Fisk and Bethel, I'm going to assume it's women only at 5:30. Couple of Saturday results. Loyola swept UT Southern. The women lost 76-69. The men lost 69-61. More of today's action in the association. Memphis goes to Houston, following up on the matchup from what, Thursday night, was it? Yeah.
I believe so, yep.
Yeah, they go to Houston. That's a 7 o'clock tip. You can see it on FanDuel Sports as well as on NBA TV. And in the NFL, again, Super Wild Card Weekend wrapping up with Minnesota taking on the Rams in a 7 p.m. kick out in Glendale, Arizona. You can see it on ABC Sports. I'm sorry, on ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. As he departed the podium after his introductory press conference in Foxborough, Massachusetts, Mike Vrabel said, "It's time to get to work." And that is the plan for the new Patriots coach. It was pretty much a whirlwind romance between him and his former team, but I don't think it came out any way that surprised anyone. Mike Vrabel, a week after, well, officially, I guess it was a week because it was announced yesterday. A week after Gerard Mayo was dismissed after one season, Mike Vrabel was installed atop the Patriots. Will be the third coach in 3 years for that team that was kind of the epitome of stability there for the longest. So obviously going to be interesting to see how that goes, but they certainly feel like they've got their man, and it feels like of this coaching cycle, Mike Vrabel was the most wanted, and understandably so, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, you know, you're talking about a guy with terrific, obviously, playing career, depending on, you know, what evaluation you give that has to count for a little something. You know, you're talking about a guy that was a coach of the year, and until the final 2 seasons in Tennessee, had really done some great things. You know,
Coaching an AFC championship game, man.
Coach AFC championship game, multi-division wins. You know, the 1 seed in 21. Had kind of everything trending in the right direction, and then things kind of blew apart in 22 and 23. And so if you're a Patriots fan, not only do you have Vrabel, the rest of your roster is pretty bad. Let's just go ahead and clear the air there. But you have Drake May on a rookie contract, which is the most sought-after thing in all of the NFL, is a great quarterback on a rookie deal. You think you have your guy, and you got a coach with, you know, his record is just 54 and 45, but, you know, 8 of those losses came in the 2 subpar seasons at the end of Tennessee. So you got to feel pretty good, I think, if you're a Patriots fan, knowing not only you got your guy, but that was the guy that you clearly wanted, and you went out and got him.
You've got your coach, you've got your quarterback, like you said, on a rookie deal, and you've got what, the number 2? Where is New England picking?
The Patriots, they got the 4 pick.
The 4. And they got a boatload of cap space. So, you know, if you are a Patriots fan, dude, I'm not sure what more you could want than this. You've got a former guy, you know, that played for the franchise coming back to restore the glory, and all of the personnel chips, you know, that you could want as you bring a new coach in. So, I mean, because rarely are you on top when you're changing coaches. So that's kind of where they're at. And the 49-year-old Vrabel, I mean, he's coaching wise, he's relatively young. Could be there for a while if things go right. I'm always concerned when you bring back one of your legends, what happens when it doesn't work out and you got to get rid of him. So, but that's definitely glass half empty, and I'm sure that the Patriots are looking at this thing from a glass half full perspective right now. I want to galvanize our football team. I want to galvanize this building. I want to galvanize our fans. The most important thing are the players. There are some of them right here. I want to provide a program that provides their ownership, but also their accountability of each other, and one that they'll be proud to be a part of and that they're going to fight for, said Vrabel. So, again, I'm not sure who else they talked to. I think Ben Johnson might have been in the mix, but when we talked to Ben Volen of the Boston Globe last week, you really felt like at the very least Mike Vrabel was the leader in the clubhouse, and I just didn't see a scenario that he wasn't going to be the guy.
Yeah, we'll never know what would have been the strategy, what their pivot would have been, but because they pulled it off, and that's got to be reassuring. If you're a Patriots fan, as bad as the last several seasons have been, you feel like you landed a pretty good get with May, and now you feel like you've got your guy. Now you got a chance, you don't need the quarterback. And, depending on what the Titans, the Browns, and the Giants make moves, I mean, you could have potentially Travis Hunter fall right into your lap if that's a direction you choose to go. So, or, as kind of the Patriots have shown a number of times, for a depleted roster, let's not kid ourselves, this was the team that was predicted to win the fewest games in the NFL this past season, and they fell just shot. They accidentally won too many games. They ended up with 4 wins. So there's a lot to be said for potentially trading back and just filling as many holes as possible. Or, maybe you give Drake May a nice little shiny toy there with Travis Hunter potentially, or a chance to flip him to DB and help your defense.
Well, I mean, if you draft Travis Hunter, you could potentially fill 2 holes, right? And you
hypothetically, I'm not quite as sold on that, but yeah, it does feel like he is going to play at least in a limited capacity, potentially 2 ways, depending on the team that gets him.
And if you recall, Mike Vrabel played both ways.
Yes, he did.
So, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. We'll be talking a little Tennessee athletics with Go Vols 24/7's Ben McKee. Stay tuned after this. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are now joined by Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7. Busy weekend for Mr. McKee with some hoops action, all of it away from home, with the guys going out to Texas, coming off that tough loss at Florida and getting back to business, and the women going over to Fayetteville and picking up a big win. Ben, thanks for taking some time with us today, man. How's everything?
Appreciate y'all having me. Everything is well over here on the east side of the state. Hope everything is well there in the mid-state. The sun has not come out today. The sun was out yesterday. That was nice, but cloudy. But the snow is melting, which is good thing, I guess. I can't stand the snow when it does melt. So nasty and ugly looking.
Yeah.
I'd like to skip through that process, but hope all is well in the mid-state. Looking forward to getting over there on Saturday.
We're hanging in there, man. Hey, obviously Tuesday night was not a good night for Tennessee, and I was intrigued by the approach that Rick Barnes took to that game. It was a pretty much flush it and go play. And while Texas gave Tennessee everything they wanted, it felt like to me that they really responded about the way you would have expected them to.
Yeah, absolutely, especially given how old of a team they are and how many veterans they've had. They've been around the block. That loss at Florida was the worst loss in the history of the Rick Barnes tenure over the last decade, but they have had similar losses. They had 28-point losses to South Carolina and Alabama on the road, 26-point losses at Kentucky, and I forget who the other 26-point loss was too, but point being that they had similar losses to that one at Florida, and they know that one loss, because it is not in the NCAA tournament, it does not define their season. And I think they understand that, they being the players, and Rick Barnes certainly understands it. I mean, he answered one of my questions in his pre-Texas media availability and concluded his answer with, I've been through this before, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as I've been doing it, I've suffered these losses before. And the loss was very frustrating. They played poorly. It was an awful loss. There's no bones about that. But there wasn't much in that game to be super concerned with going forward. There wasn't a need to plant a red flag here, a red flag there. Some things to keep in the back of your mind. I have some concerns about the post, for example, moving forward. But overall, I mean, they missed wide open shot after wide open shot after wide open shot, especially to start the game. And a lot of those wide open shots were as Rick said last week in the media, they were shots that Chaz has taken all year long and made all year long. So he was perfectly content with those makes. The disappointing part was how they allowed the missed shots, which happens in basketball. You're going to have a couple of games a year where you just don't make shots, just like you're going to have a couple of games as well where you can't miss either. But they allowed those missed shots to affect everything else. Florida, which is a very explosive offense, had 12 points 10 minutes into the game. That's pretty good against that offense to hold them to 12 points in 10 minutes. But it was at that time to where they continued to get frustrated by not making shots of their own. The rebounding suffered because of it. The defense suffered because of it. And Florida went on to blow out Tennessee. But absolutely the best way Tennessee could have responded. Could have played better at Texas, no doubt about that. But just in terms of responding on the road in the SEC, that's obviously a huge thing. this year. I think they were able to respond in the manner that they did because they have been around the block and they understand that as frustrating and ugly as it was, you're going to have games like that in basketball from time to time.
Ben, and that kind of was what I was perhaps most impressed with or more impressed with. Yeah, blowouts happen. Yeah, you have an off night. Yeah, you run against a really good team, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that it was on the road again after such a demoralizing loss and you gut out a win, I thought that was most impressive amongst Tennessee, and Wynn agrees with me.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know that I need to say anything. That's the only voice of reason we need. I completely agree. I'm not sold on that Texas team. I don't know that they're a bad team per se, but I do think they're at the bottom tier of the SEC. They don't have the amount of talent that we have become accustomed to seeing from a Texas basketball program.
When they shoot it the way they shot it Saturday, though, they're going to be trouble for somebody.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. And I should say I'm talking about them not having a ton of talent. They may have the best freshman in the country, including Cooper Flagg and some others out there. Trey Johnson is going to play basketball for a very, very long time, and he gave Tennessee everything it could handle for several minutes of that game. But it's not a well-rounded Texas team from top to bottom in a lot of different areas. So it's not going to be the best win on the resume for Tennessee. It's not going to be the toughest road game that they have this year. But Texas, and this is going to be how it is all throughout the SEC, down to I don't know who's this week's. I guess South Carolina. We do a poll at 24/7 each week. We have 16 team sites that cover all 16 SEC teams, and each of the basketball writers vote every Sunday on the top 16 teams, power poll of sorts. And I did have South Carolina last this week for the third straight week, and that's a South Carolina team that nearly upset Auburn, the number one Auburn, who looked like they can beat the Kobe Bryant-led Los Angeles Lakers at any given moment. And that was a game that South Carolina was giving Auburn issues before Janai Broome got hurt as well. So it's not like South Carolina was hanging around just because Janai Broome got hurt. Auburn was in big trouble well before Janai Broome got hurt. So it wasn't impressive in that regard in terms of the team that they beat, but still impressive nonetheless because there's a lot of talk, as it tends to be when Tennessee loses a basketball game. Folks love to freak out and go way too far with their sentiment and their reactions. And again, I think it just goes back to the fact that it's an older program and an older team. They've been around the block. They know that one game doesn't define them. But that was a tough one, and they were very, very frustrated, very upset with what happened. I was at Thursday's practice before the team left for Austin a day early because of the weather, and Rick Barnes that was one of the more intense practices that I have sat through. I was terrified to be there. I didn't want to say a word. I didn't want to move a muscle. I didn't want to blink.
Church mouse.
Yes, absolutely. Times 10. I was afraid that I was going to get it if I did something that I wasn't supposed to. I think Chaz Lanier contemplated quitting basketball 4 times, along with some other of his teammates. So they were very frustrated. They were angry with how that Florida loss went, but to respond and kind of the routine got thrown off by having to go a day early because of the weather, and the game didn't necessarily go all that well at different points. They're able to overcome adversity within the game as well. Very telling of this team's culture and the program's culture that Rick Barnes has established.
Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, Chaz may have contemplated quitting the team a time or two Saturday as well, specifically early in the second half when Rick snatched him out of the game.
Yes, and Rick's quotes have been making the works the last couple of days. I was kind of surprised by the reaction. I thought people were going to get mad at Rick for saying what he said. The play was I noticed it right when it happened. I think Dane Bradshaw maybe commented that Rick was going to pull Chaz right away, and he did. Drew up a play for him, as Rick talked about in his post game. Wide open shot. Chaz doesn't take the shot, and Tennessee competed for Chaz on the recruiting trail out of the portal against Kentucky, one of the blue bloods in college basketball that was desperate to give Mark Pope a win now roster, and a BYU team that just landed the #1 overall player in the country, reportedly because of what they can offer in NIL. And Rick Barnes made sure to point out that, hey, if Chaz Lanier isn't going to take those wide open shots that we draw up for him and the ones that we essentially paid him to come here and take, he can come sit on the bench with the rest of us. Now, if you go listen to the video, you could tell Rick, I was not in Austin, but you could tell that Rick was kind of laughing and smirking when he said it. He wasn't being super serious. I do think he was serious about what he was saying, but he was joking about it more than scolding Chaz or getting on to Chaz in that regard. Although I'm sure that Rick absolutely told Chaz exactly that in the locker room and at the time when he pulled him out, because Rick is the king of telling players what we hear later on. He has not said anything to the media that he has not already told his players. But I thought that people on social media were going to get upset with Rick saying that and getting on to Chaz. But I've seen a lot of agreement with Rick with those comments and people appreciating how real he kept it. And I think it stole the headlines in the college basketball world a bit the last 24 to 36 hours because of just the oddity and how taboo almost it is to hear coach say that. But I think it goes back to the underlying message of the thing that Rick is on Chaz about in practice every single day and on him during games is he wants him to be more aggressive. Chaz just naturally has a laid-back personality, very much goes with the flow, doesn't want to upset anybody. He's a great dude, and he just goes with the flow. And sometimes that can be to your detriment out on the basketball court. And he'd like to see him be more aggressive, like we saw with Dalton last year. I believe that Chaz has the same ability in terms of being able to get to the rim. It's just a matter of want to. It's a matter of playing with more aggression, and that's what Rick has been trying to coach out of him the last several weeks. And I think that was his another way of trying to get him to understand, like, hey, man, we need you to be aggressive. I mean, he said last week that the team, and Zakai Ziegler echoed this, like the team is perfectly okay with you taking 30 shots a game. I know that's crazy and sounds weird, but we want you to take 30 shots a game. So I think it just kind of goes back to the point that they want him to be more aggressive and not turn down any shots. And he had a quirky way of trying to get that message across once again.
Well, I just think the specific message, what he said, I think is just kind of a reflection of where we are at this point. I mean, that is what they pay him to do. I mean, shooters shoot. I heard one tell a young lady one time, shoot or sit. And, if that's what you are supposed to do, then certainly when the play is for you specifically, you got to put it up. And to your point about Dalton Connect, I think Dane kind of spoke to this during the game as well. He kind of referenced Dalton as a dog, and kind of left it out there that we're not sure if Chaz is that at this point or not. And it was borderline a slap, but I mean, facts are facts, and nobody questioned whether or not Dalton Connect was a dog. And certainly there's reason to be concerned about that with Chaz Lanier at this point, I would think.
Yeah, I would lean more towards I don't think Chaz is soft or doesn't play hard, doesn't give effort. Like, I was very annoyed during the Florida game. I am pro Jimmy Dykes. I really like Jimmy Dykes, the broadcaster, but I was annoyed with him during Tuesday's game. He kept talking about how Chaz needs to fight harder and harder and harder and give more effort to get better open shots, get better looking shots. He was saying that he was not taking open shots and he needed to work harder to get those open shots. And I'm thinking, Jimmy, I know that you're a former college basketball coach and you know a lot more basketball than I do. But the game,
former college basketball coach. I'm not sure how great he was though. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, I could never be a college basketball coach, so he still one-ups me. But
yeah,
the game that I was watching, Chaz was taking open shots time and time again. So it's like, why are we talking about he needs to give more effort to get more open? Like I see him taking open shots there that he's taken all year long and made all year long, and they're just not going in tonight. He did have the one lackadaisical moment when he was dribbling the ball up the court and he was kind of being lackadaisical going into his three. And again, it gets misconstrued as not giving effort or being lazy, because that's a real simple thing to do. Everybody was mad about the lack of effort Tennessee played with at Florida. They did not play with a lack of effort. They played with a lot of effort. They dove on the floor for loose balls time and time again, and were contesting at the rim and not afraid to get in somebody's face defensively. They just weren't doing those things well. They weren't playing well. And poor play does not equate to poor effort. And that's such an easy thing for us to do as sports fans. It's probably my number one pet peeve about sports fans, honestly. It's just how when things aren't going well, they just don't care. They don't want to be there. They're not playing hard. No, they're just not playing well. They're not shooting the basketball the way that they need to. So I do think it can be misconstrued just because of Chaz's laid-back personality that maybe he's not playing with enough effort. It's not that so much. It's just that because if he wasn't playing with the requisite amount of effort, he would not be playing at all. He would not be at Tennessee at all. It's about that next level of aggressiveness, because Rick is big on, hey, let's get to the rim. If you're not making shots, well, okay, let's get to the rim, maybe draw a foul, get to the free throw line. Maybe that gets us going. And Dalton certainly was not afraid to attack somebody at the rim. We've seen Chaz try to dunk on several people this year, and the dunk hasn't just gone down yet. So it's not that he lacks the ability. It's just a matter of getting him to do that more consistently. And because he does have this natural laid-back personality off the floor, it's about getting him to tap into his aggressive side more consistently and willing to do things more aggressively on the basketball floor. And I'd be surprised if by midway through conference play, we don't see a Chaz Lanier that is just routinely aggressive.
Take some lumps now, sounds like, for the big payoff down the road, which won't appease Vols fans at the moment, but you just got to trust the process, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the early returns to start conference play were good. He was awesome against Arkansas last Saturday, but it's easy when you're Chaz Lanier to be comfortable and play well when you're in your home building. The other team is you want an example of not playing with effort? Go watch that Tennessee-Arkansas game, especially in the second half. That is not playing with effort. But it's kind of easy to do it when you're in your controlled environment. It's not as easy to do it, obviously, on the road when you're playing at Florida. It was the second time in Chaz's career. He went down there with North Florida a couple of years ago, but a little bit of a different experience for him this time around. And Texas wasn't that big of an environment because, A, it's a football school. B, the football team had a football game the night before that they lost. So not a tough environment, but he's going to take his lumps here as he adjusts. Dalton had some games here and there early on in SEC play to where maybe he didn't have an entire game where he struggled, but he would have a half here or there where he did, and then he would kind of snap out of it. So Chaz Lanier is he's going to – Janai Broom's probably going to win SEC Player of the Year, but Chaz Lanier is going to be in the conversation by the end of the season, and he's adjusting. Dalton had to adjust. A lot of guys have to adjust. Igor's adjusting. Felix played poor against Arkansas and had a great week, even in that loss at Florida. Felix Akpara played well down in the paint and played well on Saturday night. He's a big reason that they won, in addition to Darlin Stone-Dubar, who also has had to adjust. So Chaz wasn't going to be able to go through the season flawlessly. He was going to have to make tweaks and changes, both mentally, physically, the way he goes about doing things. And he's again, as I've said a bunch, he's a great kid, puts in a lot of effort, and he's not going to be content with what he's done up until this point. He's here to go chase the big goals, and he's going to continue to strive to do so.
Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Ben, it doesn't get any easier for Tennessee as they've got number 23 Georgia coming in on Wednesday before, as you mentioned, they come this way for a Saturday night matchup at Memorial Gym with Vanderbilt, a Vanderbilt team that really seems right on the edge of getting some good stuff done in conference play.
Yeah, real tough week. It's going to be a tough season Again, like we saw on Saturday, the South Carolinas of the world, who is perceived to be the worst team in the league, and maybe LSU is right there with them. Vanderbilt, I'd put them at the tier towards the bottom, but it's not really a reflection of my feelings on Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt is headed in the right direction. I think this year's team can create some problems, but it's just that the league is so deep this year that it's impossible not to. Somebody's got to be at the bottom, is what I'm getting, because there are so many great teams. I think it's 8 teams that are ranked in the top 25. 9 teams, and there were a couple that fell out and are right on the cusp, right on the doorstep of being ranked once again. So somebody has to be down there, and I've been very impressed with what little I've been able to see of Vanderbilt so far. And Mike White's really got Georgia going in the right direction now that he's been able to lay the groundwork in Athens. They're playing confident basketball. The roster is more well-rounded now that he has established himself there in Athens. So it's going to be a big test this week for Tennessee. Georgia, 2 big wins. Kentucky, Mississippi State, top 20 wins last week. But you got to play them in your own building. And now they get to go on the road and come to Thompson-Boling for a big-time matchup. And they'll have to handle the road environment just like a lot of other teams have had to do so far early on in SEC play. That'll be a big one for Tennessee to continue to gain confidence. Tennessee is trying to prove that, hey, we're right there next to Auburn, right there next to Alabama, right there next to Florida. Even despite that loss last week, I feel like the opinion of Tennessee has slipped a bit because of how they lost to Florida. And although Georgia's not in that tier, Georgia is a top 25 team
Still
that
good.
You can make a statement and say, no, we're still right in that tier 1. And capable of being a 1 seed, a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. So a lot for Tennessee to prove. And, Vanderbilt's not as established right now as Tennessee and even Georgia. But Tennessee always tends to have a storyline emerge when they play inside a Memorial Gymnasium or the game go down to the wire. So it'll be interesting this year. Rick can't revert to his favorite line that Jerry Stackhouse runs great stuff. He's going to face a new coach for the first time, so he won't be as familiar with him as he was with Stackhouse. Those two had a pretty good relationship, but interested to learn more about this Tennessee team, because coming up after this week, it's 3 straight games of just it's a gauntlet. It is what it is. It's Auburn next Saturday, Kentucky, and Florida. So good luck, Tennessee. But this is a big week for them to, again, continue to improve, but also prove themselves to others that they are still in that tier 1 despite that ugly loss at Florida, to prove it was a one-off, essentially.
Tennessee's women trying to get back to that top tier. Big win over at Arkansas, 93-63 yesterday, after losing 2 games to top 10 opponents by a total of 3 points. Falling 87-86 to Oklahoma for their first loss of the year, and then falling on a late basket by LSU, 89-87. Yeah, what are you liking out of Kim Caldwell's bunch right now as they get ready to host Mississippi State on Thursday before they come to Vanderbilt on Sunday?
Yeah, back-to-back days, Tennessee on West End, and they practically play at the same time. Men are at 3:30, women are at 3 o'clock. I saw that this morning and chuckled at it. Maybe that's just in my head, but I love their grit and the resilience and the toughness. And I hate that we have to mention these things, but it just looks like Lady Vols basketball. It looks like Pat Summitt coached basketball. And I was one who grew up when Candace Parker was playing. I was in middle school when Candace Parker was playing and winning a national championship. And
Candace appreciates that.
Yes, hopefully she would play for me. She would play basketball for Coach Caldwell. Hopefully she would play basketball for me. But like I said earlier, I don't know if Jimmy Dykes has me beating that category. She probably doesn't need to. But yeah, I grew up with an appreciation of Lady Vols basketball, and they were certainly well established before my young eyes were able to watch. But it just that had gotten lost. Just again, not necessarily saying that Holly Warlick's teams and Kelly Harper's teams always played without effort. It just didn't look like it was supposed to. It didn't look the way a lot of us grew up watching the Lady Vols play, or the way people became accustomed to watching them play, and the reason why so many people fell in love with Pat Summitt and her style and her coaching and the way she mentored so many young ladies. It just didn't look right for too long, and that's been the biggest thing that has stood out to me this year. And I really think that Kelly Harper's teams did play hard. It was just that they lacked the fundamentals, and that was what always bit them. It wasn't necessarily the effort. My personal opinion is that the effort was more of an issue under Holly Warlick towards the end, but it just looks like what Lady Vols basketball is supposed to look like. And based off the people in my circle that I talk to and what I see on social media, it seems like that's what is appreciated most with this team this year is just they're never out of a game. I mean, those 2 top 25 games last week, especially the Oklahoma one, I mean, it looked like they were on the verge of being blown out. It looked like it was not going to end well whatsoever, but they kept playing and they gave themselves a chance to win. And aside from that, I mean, the style of play is a lot of fun to watch as well. And I love their comments about how, hey, these are still my players, because there's a lot of people saying, like myself, that's been my thing that I've said is like, hey, once she gets her recruits in there, she's going to be really clicking on all cylinders. And that's true, but that just makes you fall in love with Coach Caldwell's style even more when you see her come out and say, no, these are my seniors too, and they deserve everything that they're receiving. They deserve to win. I chose to coach them. They chose to stick around with me, and it's just it makes you feel good about the direction of the program if you're a Tennessee fan. So there's a lot of impressive things right now with the Lady Vols, the offense and the resiliency being first and foremost. Defense is a bit of an issue at times, but I think that's just a lack of depth. Just the situation that she was taking over, and they've dealt with some unfortunate injuries as well. But it looks like they're trending in the right direction and way ahead of schedule at the moment.
Ben, real quick, wanted to ask you, I know there's a lot going on with football right now, but also baseball is about 5 weeks out.
Yeah. 4 weeks from Friday. I think it's 32 days away as of today. First pitch on Valentine's Day. Thankfully, my wife and I like to do Valentine's the day before with lunch or dinner, so I don't have to try to talk my way out of that one. But it's going to be another team that has the chance to win a national championship. It's been that way really since the COVID year that got canceled. Everybody in the program has said for a long time, and I know many people have said this at this point, but they felt like that was going to be the team. The 2020 team was going to be the one that got them over the hump and the one that got them to Omaha, where you had Garrett Crochet, you had Zach Daniels, Alric Solari, and the other core that was able to come back, but you lost a year with a lot of talented players that went ahead and went on to the draft because of that lost year. But they've had a chance to win a championship since that year, and there's nothing changing about this season either. The way that they're recruiting, they're going to have a chance to win a national championship every time they lace up the cleats for the foreseeable future. They just have a ridiculous amount of talent. The lineup is a little more proven at the moment, more established at the moment. They've got some things to figure out over at first base, left field, the DH spot. I feel like all of those positions are going to be tied in together to a certain extent because you have guys in conversation that can play multiple positions. The pitching side is the big question mark to me. You have Liam Doyle coming over from Ole Miss. He'll be a great Friday night starter for Tennessee. I think he's going to have a big year, and he is Liam Doyle is Drew Gilbert on the mound. So prepare for some fireworks. He brings the attitude that Tony loves to have on a Friday night going into a weekend to kind of set the tone. I think there's a good chance Nate Snead makes an appearance in the starting rotation. We'll see how preseason goes. You've got a young freshman arm in Tegan Coons, who is prepared to perform from day one, very much like Chase Burns was, and Drew Beam and Blake Tidwell and others as true freshmen. But outside of some of those proven arms, and there's a couple of other familiar faces coming back, but there's a lot of unproven arms as well. There's a ton of talent. I mean, the staff is littered with talent, but it's a lot of JUCO guys freshman arms, returning players who haven't been thrown into major roles yet. So who emerges? Obviously, you trust Frank Anderson to do a great coaching job, and it's going to be needed this year because of how much inexperience and unprovenness that there is. But they have all the talent in the world. They're number 4 in D1 baseball's preseason rankings this morning. They could have been number 1. They could have been number 5. They'll be right in the thick of it. And I think, as crazy as it would have been to say 5-6 years ago, the minimum expectation, just because of how much talent there is on the mound and at the plate, is they can make it back to Omaha, not just simply make it back, but make some noise while they're there again.
Obviously, this is something that we will continue to talk about, but the bottom line is it's a pretty good time to be a UT fan, right?
It is. There's been some frustrating moments the last couple of weeks with football losing and Tennessee not being as aggressive in the portal as fans would like, especially coming off that loss. But maybe you feel a little bit better because of how Ohio State has looked. I was on my phone. I was on the phone with my dad earlier, and we were talking about Ohio State, and he made the comment that he does feel a little bit better, not excusing the performance of the loss, but makes you feel a little bit better given how Ohio State has looked. But some frustrations of late with that basketball loss and the portal and losing to Ohio State. But at the end of the day, Tennessee athletics is as good as it's ever been, certainly in my lifetime.
There we go. Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Ben, as always, we appreciate it and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Absolutely. I always appreciate when y'all ask me, and look forward to coming on when you do ask me, and hope y'all have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Ben.
Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, college football. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Friday night, Ohio State grabbed the other berth in the college football playoff national championship matchup against Notre Dame with a 28-14 win over Texas that wasn't decided until inside the final 3 minutes, basically, because Texas was driving down 21-14 in the red zone, got cute with a pitch from about the 6 maybe that lost yardage. And then Quinn Ewers got sacked by former roommate Jack Sawyer, who came up with a scoop and score, 83 yards, extending a 21-14 lead to 28-14. And that was basically it. Texas gets picked off on the next possession, but it was, that sequence right down there where you're pitching it wide out of shotgun, trying to score inside the 10. And I think was it at the 4, Wade? How close were they?
Yeah, it was right around the 5. It felt like best. I mean,
it was close enough where, if you're playing big boy football, you just get under center and you either hand it off or sneak it and maybe a tush push or something like that 4 times and see if you can wedge between somebody and into the end zone. But you certainly don't pitch it wide against Ohio State's defense, it wouldn't feel like. So, I don't know. But yeah, a tough loss for Texas, although it might have been of their own doing. Meanwhile, Ohio State just continues to maul people throughout this postseason.
Yeah, it's frustrating if you're a Texas fan, obviously, and man, the armchair QBs, they were out instantly after that game. And, it's got to be really frustrating, right? Jeremiah Smith limited to 1 catch for 3 yards. If you tell anybody before the game that's going to be his stat, this is a guy that might have gone. We were talking about him going with 1,000 yards over the course of the postseason, but he was limited. They shut him down. And if you'd have said that the secondary would do that part well, I feel like you got a pretty good chance to win. But it was not in the cards because, Ohio State takes care of business. Credit to Howard, who finishes 24-33 passing in that game. Not the greatest game he's ever played by any means, but he did a great job of finding those other players, throwing for 289 and getting the win, sending the Buckeyes back. They won the first ever 4-team playoff. Now they're trying to win the first ever 12-team playoff.
And, I have a tough time thinking they don't, man, but it's them and Notre Dame next Monday night for all the Tostitos, as Brett Musburger would say. Should be a heck of a ball game, and it kind of pains me to say it, but it'll definitely be entertaining. Meanwhile, Bet Online has already established Texas as the favorite to win the 2026 CFP championship at plus 450.
I mean, especially with Manning back, you assume that Quinn Sewers, as I saw some people on social media poking fun at our guy there, you assume he's probably ended up transferring somewhere else, it feels like. And I'm not real sure, but, man, there's a lot of optimism. You know that Texas, even though they got as far as they did, they're still going to try and piece together a couple portal grabs when we get into the spring session. So I feel like they're going to be in pretty good shape. I'm not pulling the trigger on anybody this early. I can't keep my money tied up for over a year like that, Mo.
Well, not only that, but like you said, I mean, there's so much up in the air about all of these teams. I mean, Texas is the favorite, but Georgia and Ohio State are right behind them at plus 550. Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Miami are basically your top 9, according to, again, Bet Online. So you can get those odds right there, right now. It's
the crazy part too is Ohio State, especially in the 12-team playoff. We've seen obviously they can absorb the loss to Michigan. They absorbed one to Oregon. Imagine if they lose. They got Texas coming to the Horseshoe the very first game next season. So you could lose that first game. You could even lose to Michigan and still end up in a nice, cozy spot, just like, man, the blueprint is there, and they're unfolding it right before our eyes right now.
Yeah. We've been keeping an eye on the situation up at Norfolk State with former NFL standout quarterback Michael Vick getting that gig in his hometown. Well, former Tennessee State assistant Darrell Bullock will be joining Coach Vick's staff. Coach Bullock was at TSU in 2005 and 2006 as offensive line and tight ends coach, as well as recruiting coordinator. Guy has had quite the background in the coaching ranks. Played at Penn State, but coached in the high school ranks in Florida at, you may have heard of this place, Immokalee, in 1995. His running back is a guy by the name of Edgar and James. So God knows what to do with some talent. But Darrell Bullock, former TSU assistant, joining the staff of Michael Vick and the Norfolk State Spartans. And that's obviously going to be an interesting situation to keep an eye on as it progresses. So,
yeah, and that's part of the appeal, right? You bring in the big name coach, just like, Prime is obviously the classic example. I mean, you get Warren Sapp to come in to coach your defensive line. You bring in a guy like Pat Shermer, who's got a great career trajectory. I mean, this is kind of the recipe. You get the head coach and then hopefully siphon off some really good assistants to help build that thing.
Absolutely. Should be fun to watch. Let's take a break here as hour number 1 of the Monday Mirror is in the books on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back with us for hour number 2 as we get into some pro football.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Maurice Patton and Wade Neely here with you on the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Let's talk a little NFL. And before we get into Super Wildcard Weekend, little news out of Dallas or out of Arlington or wherever it is that Jerry Jones is set up. Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys were unable to reach an agreement on his contract. And so after 5 seasons, Mike McCarthy is out. I thought it was interesting last week when the Bears asked for permission to discuss their head coaching vacancy with McCarthy and the Cowboys said no. felt a little petty on somebody's part, but at any rate, I guess he's free to talk to whoever now. Throughout Mike McCarthy's tenure here, including the last several weeks, I've been very complimentary of the job he has done that has applied to our record over that time period, our team unity and culture, Mike's qualifications and track record of success, and on a personal level, as a tremendous human being. I have great respect for Mike, and he has led the team through some very unique and challenging times during his tenure. Blah, blah, blah. Prior to reaching the point of contract negotiations, it became mutually clear that it would be better for each of us to head a different direction. It seemed kind of obvious to everybody that was watching that probably needed to be the way that thing turned out. It's just odd that it took this long. But McCarthy, 49-34 over 5 seasons, tied for the 8th best in the NFL, along with the Minnesota Vikings over that stretch. 3 straight 12-win seasons from 21 to 23. But it just never felt like they were trending upward to me. And I know, Wade, you even made the comment on more than one occasion over the course of the season that they were an unserious franchise.
Yeah, this season felt like a disaster, and that was when Prescott was even in the lineup. And then when he kind of crumbles, they were snake bit in a variety of ways, but it was kind of by their own doing. They sacrificed the big contracts with the big stars over depth. And as we've seen, as you get in the postseason, especially, you're going to need depth to carry you at some point, and that never materialized. I am a little worried, though, because our guy Jerry Jones, he's slipping a little bit. This felt like a Saturday or Sunday right in the middle of the other NFL games opportunity to dump the news. I said that last week or 2 weeks ago. So he's slipping a little bit. And the other kind of boo-boo is now the playoff coaches are locked in, so they won't have a chance to potentially talk to Ben Johnson for a little bit. They won't have a chance to talk to Aaron Glenn for a little bit. Or some of these other sought-after coordinators. So the Cowboys, they get the spotlight today all to themselves, which is really what they're more about than winning football games at the moment.
Again, not necessarily a shock that they made the move, but the timing, to your point, is a little odd. So Cowboys joining the coaching carousel. Patriots come off, Dallas steps on. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one, among others now, and see where McCarthy winds up. I mean, I wonder if Chicago wants to talk to him still.
I would say so. I mean, they're already interviewing everybody else, so you might as well get him in there because, and that's the great debate with McCarthy. Yes, he's won the Super Bowl, but you can make the case that he should have won a couple more because you could make a real strong argument that Prime Rodgers carried that team and that franchise to that title. So depending on your evaluation, he's either going to be a really attractive candidate or kind of a middle-of-the-road candidate, especially it feels like maybe his best coaching days are behind him. But for a team that's looking for a big name or a team that's looking for a little bit of stability, I mean, outside of this season and the real flame out in the playoffs last year, losing to Green Bay, he had been kind of steady prior to that. So someone will take a swing on him, it feels like.
Sure. Super Wild Card Weekend may have fell a little short of super. I think maybe Minnesota and the Rams have a possibility of bailing things out, but only one game was closer than 2 possessions through the first 5, and that was last night's finale as Washington had to have a doink field goal to beat host Tampa Bay 23-20 on the final play of the game. But other than that, not a whole lot of suspense. As you mentioned, Pittsburgh didn't seem terribly interested until late. And, the way Derrick Henry was running the ball, I don't know that I necessarily blame him, as the Ravens down the Steelers 28-14 on Saturday night after Houston took advantage of what? 4 Justin Herbert interceptions in that 32-12 win over the Chargers. Buffalo did pretty much what you expected them to do against Denver, 31-7. Philadelphia's got A.J. Brown on the sidelines reading a book and defeating Green Bay 22-10. So,
yeah, kind of a
not a whole lot. Yeah, not a whole lot of drama over the weekend.
No, you're exactly right. Nothing super compelling. And that Chargers game, man, that's going to be one that, they really kind of moan about over the offseason because they were up in that game. And Stroud, the ball is loose. So you're thinking maybe a safety, maybe a touchdown, and the Chargers are really rolling. Stroud somehow gets out of danger and then kind of just caught fire after that. It went from almost being a Los Angeles kind of runaway in the early goings. But Houston caught fire after that moment and never looked back. They had just some crazy plays. I watched part of that game on the Nickelodeon broadcast. That made the comedy even better because, LA just couldn't get out of its own way. Dissily just dropping passes right into the hands of defensive backs in the area. I mean, it was gross. And then that carries us into the night game. Didn't watch any of that at the Preds, but all I saw about was, man, Herb Street keeps things pretty close to the vest. But when Herb Street is saying, quote, where the hell is the fight? This is the Pittsburgh Steelers and there's nothing. That's all I needed to see. I knew they were dead in the water. So no matter how much window dressing they got a little bit in the second half, that was Baltimore running all over Pittsburgh, who had a 2-game lead in that division a little over a month ago.
It's crazy. But, you kind of got vintage Lamar and Derek right there. And that's a 1-2 punch that, not too many other teams in this league have, really. So be interesting to see what happens with them as they navigate their way through this postseason. Saturday, you've got Houston going to Kansas City. You've got Washington going to Detroit. Sunday, you've got Baltimore going to Buffalo. And the winner of this Vikings-Rams game going to Philadelphia, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that game was ugly too. The Packers had a fumble early, and I mean, Philadelphia pretty much dominated. Love had three interceptions for sure, maybe 4, and I mean, that was just a gross game. And even that tells you all you need to know about the Eagles. They're up 10-0 in that game, and the fans are borderline booing what they're seeing. That's how frustrated they were. The Eagles are grinding out wins, even though they're not pretty. So that will be a fun matchup with whoever they get. But yeah. There was no bones about it. The prime game next week is going to be Ravens-Bills. CBS, the main event. No disrespect to the Texans, who yet again get the 3:30 slot on Saturday. They draw the sacrificial lamb going up to KC. And then Washington and, Detroit. Whether it was Washington or Tampa Bay, felt like it could be a little frisky, but Vegas still has Detroit favored by 8.5. So, I mean, it still feels inevitable that the Lions win this game, but it will be fun to watch Daniels get an extra dose of postseason action to kind of season his chops after a sensational first year.
I think that's a key right there. And, as far as that game in itself, maybe the rookie doesn't know what he doesn't know going into Detroit, or maybe Aaron Glenn cooked something up for him. So I think that'll be worth keeping an eye on, just because the unpredictability of the quarterback play for Washington. And that's not, not to cast any aspersions. It's just, is he eventually going to look like a rookie, or is he going to continue to get it done? So that's the fascination there for me, I think. So that should be interesting. And again, Vikings-Rams winner plays Philadelphia. I guess that's a Monday night game because there's only one game listed, or maybe it's just not listed here because they don't know who the opponent is yet. I don't know.
Doubleheader Saturday, doubleheader Sunday.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and they have the Eagles one slotted. NFL ain't messing with Ravens-Bills. That will be high drama, high theater. I mean, and with the last 2 weeks, the MVP debate, I mean, you have everything and more setting up for this matchup. Vegas has Baltimore favored by 1, so basically a pick 'em up there in Orchard Park. that will be an epic showdown. And that's kind of what this building up to. It's kind of like the college football playoff, right? I mean, the first couple rounds been kind of blah, but everybody's kind of just tapping in for what hopefully is a much better divisional round this weekend.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media, talking a little footy. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and it's been a while since we've had this guy on, but we welcome in VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media to talk a little Nashville Soccer Club. We didn't talk a whole lot of NSC late in the season for obvious reasons. I mean, it kind of got to a point where you just kind of ran out of things to say, but VALAIR, give us some reason to be optimistic about 2026 with a full season of BJ Callahan and getting all of the bad stuff out of the way in 24.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me again. And I am really curious. Why didn't you talk about NSC? What happened? I wasn't familiar. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, things did not go well in 2024 for the boys in gold. But 2025 there's an excitement that I am feeling from the fan base. The messages that I'm getting on Twitter are a lot less depressing. The replies are a lot less depressing. And a lot of it has to do with the signings they're making and the moves they're making on the offseason. Now it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you haven't seen these players play. You haven't seen this team play yet. So the excitement there is kind of like cautious a little bit. You don't want to go too excited about it. and promise go get your tattoos of all that, Eastern Conference champions, whatever. Because we've
let me ask you this, Valair.
Yes.
Because are NSC fans Titans fans or Predators fans? Because it sounds like we've been down this road before in this town really recently.
Yeah, it's sounding a little bit like it. For the longest time, we who covered NSC or even NSC fans, it was just kind of like, well, you know what, Nashville SC is taking the spot in the market that the Preds and Titans can't, which is like having a winning team that makes it playoffs consistently, right? And to be fair, the Predators did it for a long time. They had a consistent playoff team, but the Titans on and off, all that. And then folks around the Nashville SC circles were like, this is what we occupy. We occupy Nashville's consistent team. And then last season happens, and you're like, all right, hold on. Are you the Titans? Yes, we've heard this before. It is slightly different than the Titans because it is a continuous general manager. It's the same general manager they've always had in MLS. So it's not quite a restart. However, it is definitely a rebuild once you look at the amount of moves and the moves themselves that they've done and they are doing still going forward.
Yeah, and you touch on it, Valair, is for the first kind of real time, I'm not going to say a crossroads really, but it feels certainly like a little extra pressure. And my immediate question is, given the kind of sour mood with the way this last season ended, are the signings enough to get the juice with the fan base back, or how quickly are we going to need to see these guys gel in your mind to get the crowd support that we know this city is capable of?
I think fan support at the moment is I don't want to say fickle, but you're gonna have to do something to prove that you are better than the team that finished 13th last year, and that's really kind of the issue with Nashville SC is that maybe they've been a victim of their own success, quote unquote. For the first 4 years of their existence in MLS, they made the playoffs every single year, which is not something expansion teams in any sport really go through. In hockey, we were just talking about hockey. When Las Vegas came in and they kind of made that run to the to the Stanley Cup, everything after that is like the expectations all of a sudden higher, right? So playoffs are not enough because you've already done that for 4 years. When year 5 happened in 2024 and Nashville couldn't even make the playoffs, now fans are demanding more, and rightly so. You've showed them that you are capable enough team to be consistent playoff threat. And fans are going to always want more, and they're always going to want the titles. They're always going to want those trophies to come through, and they just haven't been able to provide that for the fans. So I think all in all, once the season starts, they have bought themselves a little bit of benefit of the doubt just simply because they've made the right moves. But, if this season starts similar to how last season starts, I don't think the reaction will be as positive. I think the fans will be more demanding more and will be more vocal about this interest and this enjoyment of this team. If that's not even a word, probably.
It fits though. So yes. We heard from BJ Callahan over the weekend, I guess, his first media availability of the preseason. What did you hear? What did you like?
A lot of good stuff. I think he's coming in with a more positive approach. I think when we talked to him, obviously after every game last season, but we also talked to him right after the season last year, and he's a pretty positive guy. Pretty he likes to talk. He likes to answer questions. But at certain points last season, it was coming to the point where the situation was so serious. Nashville were going to miss the playoffs for the first time. And that kind of took away a little bit, I felt like, from his positivity and the way he presented himself. And I think what we saw this preseason is a lot of excitement because this is going to be his first preseason as a head coach. This is going to be obviously his first preseason with Nashville SC. And I think he's excited to implement his ideas and get stuff out there. These preseason games, doesn't really matter if you win by 5 or lose by 5. I mean, if you lose by 5, fans will probably be upset. But overall, it doesn't really matter when it comes to it. The main thing is is getting your ideas out there and getting these players gelled together. So for him, he came out a lot more positive. He had certain talking points that were very he tried to kind of reiterate them at a lot of times where this is intentional. This is not something they're doing just because. They're not going and grabbing players. He's very confident that this is intentional, and everything they do is kind of part of a bigger plan. And the biggest thing I took away from that whole press conference is that him and general manager Mike Jacobs and the ownership, all the way through to every single player, are on the same page. And he said that the players believe in the mission, and that's the stuff that we kind of lost with Nashville SC towards the end of the Gary Smith era. Now, I don't want to say it was complete disconnect or anything along those lines, but him and Mike Jacobs and the rest of the team didn't seem like they were, reading from the same pages. And it was very obvious towards the end there, and we'd hear different messages from different people, to where now it seems like the organization is pretty set around the same idea and same philosophy. Now, again, this doesn't guarantee anything. It could backfire, of course, but at least everybody's on the same page.
I'm fascinated to see how this team kind of responds with the full off season, like you said, with BJ Callahan. And I'm also curious, to see, we got a little glimpse, it felt like, toward the end of last year, Valair, but kind of just seeing BJ's DNA and fingerprints on the team. And obviously, I'm really curious, where does Hani Mukhtar and where do some of the more prolific goal scorers, is this a Nashville offense that is going to produce a considerable, more intense punch in your mind this year? Or is that also going to be a work in progress?
Well, they redid the entire midfield, right? I mean, that's going to be the biggest contributor to this goal scoring area. So Nashville's biggest problem is that they didn't create enough chances. And I think creating more chances, having more chance creators in midfield, being able to control the ball and control the play, that's something that Nashville hasn't really had, and definitely didn't have the sort of players to play something like that or to do something like that last year. So when you look at Anibal Godoy, Dax McCarty the year before, Brian Anunga, Sean Davis, all of these players are gone from the club right now. None of them are still with Nashville SC. The only returning midfielder from last year to this year is Patrick Yazbek, who joined halfway through last year. Every other midfielder is brand new to Nashville SC. The reason for that is because they want to be more controlling of games. They want to be more progressive with the ball. And that eventually, the idea at least, is that eventually will bring on more goals, will bring on more chances, and obviously the chances will hopefully be converted to goals. As far as Hani Mukhtar, I think there's an interesting thing going on here where BJ was very adamant yesterday in his press conference about Hani Mukhtar being counted as a midfielder. So we've seen Hani Mukhtar play as a striker for Nashville SC in the past, as a second striker or shadow striker, whatever the term is. But BJ was very adamant yesterday about him being a midfielder. Now, this begs the question of, well, what sort of midfield Nashville SC is going to roll out? Because if they go with a more advanced sort of two central midfielders and Hani Mukhtar in front of them as the attacking midfielder, then that's something we've seen from Hani Mukhtar before. But we saw at times last season, and that was mostly what was used, was one defensive midfielder and two sort of not advanced, but what they call in soccer number 8s. So kind of more box to box with a forward eye. If Hani Mukhtar is put into one of those positions, how does he play? We don't really know yet. And that is something we haven't seen Hani Mukhtar do or attempt to do. So really curious about that, but that's really what preseason is for. And we'll have to find out where the placement of all these players ends up happening.
Valair SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we point toward the beginning of soccer season for the Nashville Soccer Club. Valair, what are some key dates that we should be aware of right now?
Yeah, so preseason starts January 18th. First game, preseason already started, I guess, but first game is January 18th. You will not be able to watch it. You can follow it on Nashville SC Twitter account probably. Most preseason games you're not going to be able to watch, but But the games start on January 18th. They will be playing a preseason game at Geodis Park, and that one is going to be we don't know yet if it's going to be open to the public or open to season ticket members, but that's what they did last year. I'm just assuming there's probably something similar this year. So that game will be against Lexington SC Saturday, February 1st at Geodis Park at 2 p.m. Other than that, it will be the home opener. Of course, that's the big date. That's the only one you need to remember, really, if you're listening to this, which is February 22nd at Geodis Park. It's the first. It's not only the home opener, it's just the opener for the season for Nashville SC. So you can catch that at, again, Geodis Park, February 22nd, 7:30 p.m. against the New England Revolution. And then if you're unable to attend, Apple TV, MLS Season Pass has you covered there. They usually do some free games, and I think the first week of the season is free. So at least you can catch some free games if you can't subscribe to the Apple TV. And then if you are a season ticket holder with Nashville SC, you get that subscription for free.
Real quick, Blair, since you mentioned it, can you elaborate on the deal with Apple TV? Because I don't watch a ton. I try and catch as many in person as I can. But being able to flip that thing on, I know it's Apple, billion-dollar corporation, but it seems like dollar for dollar and what you pay for or what you get if you're a season ticket member, their production value seems like some of the best in really any major sport in North America.
I think they do a really good job with MLS. I think for the MLS fan, the established MLS fan, the Apple deal makes a lot of sense because MLS hasn't been treated with this much respect from Fox or ABC or ESPN or whatever. They just haven't. And getting that respect from Apple, it's still not to the level that I think a lot of fans expected or wanted, but I think it is really good. The other thing is that the revenue that it's bringing to Major League Soccer and to its clubs, by association, this Apple deal is the biggest deal MLS has ever signed with any broadcasting company. So we're rolling into the third year of this deal out of 10. So it was a 10-year deal. This is the third one, and it's really nice for those established fans. Again, I think it's really good. You can go in there, watch a little pre-show, and you can get commentary in Spanish or English, and watch really good quality. I mean, it's that was one of the issues with these local broadcasters. Every time they would broadcast MLS games, it would just look not great, to be honest with you. So having that sort of 4K capability, it looks really nice. It just visually pleasing. The down part of that is that it is behind a paywall of Apple TV MLS Season Pass, right? So if you don't have MLS Season Pass, you get some free games every week if you just have Apple TV, even if you're not subscribed. But if you want to watch your team, obviously you want those specific games, and it's not going to line up that your team is always on the free games. And you have to go looking for it. You have to go and download Apple TV. And when I say Apple TV, I don't mean like an actual device. I just mean any device that streams anything. You can download Apple TV to it. So the fact that you can't find MLS just while flipping through channels, that kind of takes away from bringing in new fans. But that's a risk MLS thought was worth it for the attention that Apple gives them.
I was going to say, too, this will blow everybody's minds, but I love the fact that you're actually able to watch your local team on a service. MLB and NBA could never. So I love the fact that you're able to actually watch the Nashville matches when you subscribe to this.
Yeah, and it's not just Nashville. There's no blackouts anywhere. So if you subscribe to MLS Season Pass, you can watch any MLS game pretty much anywhere in the world with no blackouts.
While we're talking league, give us a survey. Who did the most or who maybe did the least, and give us kind of a refresher on who were some of the biggest signings across MLS this offseason.
Well, a lot of movements is happening within the league, but we've seen a lot of outside sort of interest in MLS players grow. So there are some stars that I'm just thinking of Facundo Torres, for example, and in Orlando leaving MLS to not go to Europe, which is something we've seen a lot, but to go to a big South American club. And those South American clubs, the big ones, have the money to compete with MLS in terms of these players. But that is overall a healthy thing, a healthy trend. Now, MLS needs to be a bigger part and as big as possible part in the global market of soccer. What changes soccer from everything else around it is that it's a global market. MLS needs to be a buying league and a selling league within this market in order to bring in the best talents and benefit financially as well. So, Miami's always going to grab the headlines because of a shorter Argentinian man, if you're familiar with his work. And they have a brand new coach in Javier Mascherano, who is an Argentinian legend soccer player, hasn't really coached. So this is going to be interesting to see how it goes. He's kind of like a Messi's buddy and kind of came through. So we'll see how that goes for them. There were a lot of signings that happened in the summer of last year, so kind of came in through halfway, like Olivier Giroud, for example, who was a pretty big name. And a lot of these European players, European signings will happen in the summer as well, because that's when the European transfer window opens and their season is over. So clubs are more willing to kind of let go of their team, let go of their players. But I will say from Nashville SC perspective, this is the most active they've been in any offseason. Nashville SC has been making these deals left and right ever since last season ended. It's just been a kind of a ongoing thing with the roster rebuild, and a lot of bigger names from Nashville have left the club, and a lot of big names have joined, like the MLS Cup MVP Brugman, who joined from LA Galaxy. He won MVP for MLS Cup, and now he's a Nashville SC player. So pretty big name, I would say. A couple other signings within MLS, and one signing from outside of MLS, and Taxeth from Norway, who is a younger player who will kind of, this is his first experience in Major League Soccer in America.
VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media joining us here on Main Street Sports today. VALAIR, one of the comments, one of the quotes out of BJ's media availability: we've been able to construct a roster that will be competitive each and every day. And again, NSC, Preds, Titans, a certain former general manager said coming into the 24 season that their roster checks all the boxes. I mean, like you said, cautiously optimistic about this Nashville Soccer Club coming into this 2025 season. But, is there any need, you feel like, for them to kind of temper things, maybe tamp things down a little bit, particularly in light of what we've seen this hockey season and this past football season?
No, I think they need to keep making these. They needed to be this active, and they need to continue to be active in order to get this roster to where whatever the standard is that they are trying to project. Because I think at the end of the day, you look at Nashville SC currently, even with all the moves and everything, you're not looking at them as one of the top echelon of rosters in MLS. And I'm talking about quality, not even money wise. Mm-hmm. So there is room for improvement there, and everybody knows that. I think one area that Nashville SC kind of failed in the last few years was creating a competition for positions, creating a sort of internal battle between players to win those positions. That's something maybe in football that doesn't really make sense, but in soccer, since there are more games and you can change players mid-game, and there are a lot of opportunities for players to establish themselves. But what we ended up having with Nashville SC, what we saw often was that they would have their starter and they would have sort of the backup, but the backup never really pushed the starter, or if they pushed it, it wasn't enough to kind of for the starter to consider whether or not their position is still intact. Now, obviously, you have Hani Mukhtar, you have Walker Zimmerman, you have Sam Suresh. These are your three designated players. Chances are they're starting every game, and that's okay. Everybody knows that. That's fine. But in all the other positions, there just wasn't enough competition from the so-called backups. And I think when BJ is saying we have a competitive roster, just to go back to your point, I think what he's saying is that those players who signed are coming here to play, and they are going to come in here trying to prove a point, trying to prove themselves. At the same time, the players who were kept here in Nashville from last year, they have something to prove as well, because now the club reassured them that they're staying here. They saw a lot of their teammates leave, but they were given the reassurance. But they look around and they see a lot of quality coming in. They look around, especially in midfield. You have 3-4 players who honestly, I don't know how to give in terms of the depth chart. I don't know where they rank. So when players see that, I think they're going to be a little bit more motivated to go the extra mile and try to prove themselves. And I think that's something Nashville SC has lacked for a long, long time.
Valair, I'm contractually obligated to ask you before we get out of here. How about my Everton boys bringing David Moyes back to town? Surely they escape relegation over in England, right?
Look, Everton do it year after year, and they'll do it again. They'll stay in the Premier League. I'm okay with Everton staying in the Premier League, but please stop. Arsenal drew with them, and I don't know how I can explain this to myself or to others. So there's
this is the life of an Everton fan. You know you're not going to win. You're not even going to finish in the top 10. You're just fighting to not finish in the bottom 3, and you've done it 4 or 5 years in a row. So this is what I tune into every weekend and willingly subject myself to. Valair.
In the mornings, yeah, you wake up in the morning for that. But hey, if I can offer you any help here, is that David Moyes had the most successful Everton stint in history of Everton, probably. Well, Premier League history of Everton, I should say. So you know what? Maybe you're going back to some glory days. Who knows? Get a look at that.
Me and Clay Trainham appreciate that. So thank you for putting us at ease, Valair.
Relegation is a concept that really, really kind of tickles me.
The Titans would be gone, Mo.
Yeah.
Man, who would you bring up though? See, we'd
have the Louisville Rough Riders or whoever, coming in to take their place. The Birmingham Stallions would be the new NFL team next year.
There you go. Do it with the U. Oh God, yeah, interesting. Yeah. Valair, I appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. We appreciate you, and look forward to getting you back on again here soon as we move toward the season opener for the Nashville Soccer Club.
Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Appreciate it, Valair.
Hey, when we continue here after this break on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it'll be the final segment of the Monday Mirror. It'll be the grab bag as we reach back for some odds and ends from the weekend and get you ready for what's coming up. Stay tuned after this.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
It is the final segment of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It is the grab bag, and we need to mention our thoughts are with the folks on the UT Southern campus and in the UT Southern community of with regards to the loss of Director of Sports Medicine Grant Fairchild. Had been in that position since 2001, basically a campus fixture. And I got word of this yesterday evening, and it was a shock to me. I did not know Grant very well, but I know people who did, and one of them is on the other half of this screen. And Wade, you could speak a lot more to the impact that Grant had while he was on that campus than I could. So feel free to do so.
Yeah, just this is one that was shocking. Got the news yesterday morning from several folks in the community, and his impact went beyond the 400 to 500 student athletes that for many, many years he served solo as the lone athletic trainer, coming in there in 2001. Don't think UT Southern / Martin Methodist at the time. Don't think they had even an assistant of any capacity outside of maybe a rogue student that was willing to help, or a manager tape some ankles and whatnot, until like 2010, 2012 maybe. So, I mean, this guy did it all. And so the outpouring of messages on social media and text and otherwise yesterday was remarkable, but his impact went well beyond that. A really, really close and dear friend, even prior to my tenure at Martin Methodist. So this one really hurt, really tough, and I'll always remember just how kind, caring, and compassionate the Grant was. In addition to all those crazy hours that he worked just to serve the student athletes and the conference and the NAI, he went above and beyond with the Special Olympics program in Giles County for over 10 years as part of their leadership group there. And there was a couple lean years, Mo, where Special Olympics in Giles County doesn't make it if not for the efforts of Grant, single-handedly kind of helping keep it afloat until some help and some cavalry could arrive. So that's just the type of guy that he was. He was a friend to all, and he will be sorely, sorely missed. And I'll be tuning in. He would love for everybody to tune in to WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix tonight. I guarantee you that. Many a WrestleMania watched with that guy. Touched countless lives, and he will be sorely missed, not just in Pulaski, but across southern Middle Tennessee.
You know, I've heard a lot about the lot of sports medicine folks, specifically on NAIA campuses, and you are pretty much a one-man gang in a lot of those instances, and to continue to do that at the level that he did it for the length of time that he did it, probably just speaks volumes, you know, to the type person he was. And obviously, you know, as you said, he will be missed far beyond the UT Southern campus and community. And so again, our thoughts are with those who knew and cared about Grant Fairchild.
Absolutely. They're going to do a candlelight vigil tonight on campus at 6 p.m. if you're in Pulaski at the Columns. And then services, they're still sorting out those details, but it does. He's a native of Meridian. He's a good old Mississippi boy, Southern Miss Golden Eagle through and through. But he was such a fixture in Pulaski. They're finalizing some arrangements, and there will be at least some celebration of life, it sounds like, in Pulaski, perhaps also in addition to his native Mississippi. So a couple chances to pay respect for Mr. Fairchild this week.
There we go. Vanderbilt battled against Missouri on Saturday and got down, cut it back to 61-60 late, then committed a couple of turnovers. Missouri goes down to the other end and scores, and the Tigers pull away for a 75-66 win in Southeastern Conference play. Vanderbilt 1-2 in the SEC with that loss, and I think it was their second straight loss. So, you know, we've talked with Joe Sullivan about this Vanderbilt team, and we've talked about size issues, but yesterday taking care of the ball down the stretch was a big thing for Mark Byington's bunch. So we'll see if the Commodores can get that ironed out here as they continue, but tough road loss, and the road is really unforgiving in the SEC, and they've got South Carolina coming in on Wednesday before Tennessee on Saturday. So, you know, a couple opportunities, one more so than the other, perhaps, to, you know, kind of get their footing in league play.
No doubt about it. And Vanderbilt, as Ben said earlier in our first hour, they're at the bottom tier of SEC. Not to say they're a bad team. They're actually obviously much improved. Mm-hmm. But they're a team that everything kind of has to go right when you get into league play, especially on the road. and couldn't scrap across the win at Missouri. You're right. They'll get South Carolina Wednesday night at home. Tennessee, 2:30 tip-off on SEC Network. Should be a fun one. But then, if you thought they were done, next week they got to go to Alabama and Kentucky with a game versus Florida still lingering right behind. So this is a team that wins will be very, very precious. Wes Rucker from Go Balls 24/7 had an article this week that road wins are precious for teams like Tennessee. For Vanderbilt, every win is precious as they're still trying to build themselves and claw back out from where they were these last few seasons. So win at home in versus South Carolina and see what happens from there would be a great start.
That would be a great start because, again, to your point, after South Carolina, it is Tennessee. They go to Alabama. They're at home against Kentucky. They go to Oklahoma and Florida, Texas, Auburn, and at Tennessee, which, I mean, it sounds like that pretty much for anybody else in the Southeastern Conference, but that sounds particularly a daunting stretch of the schedule for the Commodores. I mean, I don't know where the wins are in that stretch.
Yeah, of all the teams, they're like, hey, we can't get South Carolina twice. How come we only get them once? Now, granted, it's at home, but you're right, man. That is a murderer's row. And that's why that win at LSU was so crucial to kind of at least get them started in the right direction. Weren't able to follow it up versus Mississippi State or Missouri. They will be in NCAA contention. BracketMatrix.com has a 10 seed right now, but they're going to need to snag wins. They can't afford to give ones away. They're going to have to scrap and claw for the ones that they do get this year.
They really, I mean, when you look at that stretch of the schedule here over the next 3 weeks, this South Carolina game is huge.
Yeah, need to win this one to, I mean, I don't want to go full hyperbole, but this one goes a massive way because then if you do somehow snag one down the road that, you know, bolsters your resume, the last thing you want is to say, how in the world did we let that home game versus South Carolina get away from us?
Absolutely. Women, meanwhile, again, play tonight against number 6 LSU, and that's a big one for them as well.
Yeah, we talked about their schedule last week. Vanderbilt is in the thick of things, and similar script, right? I mean, they cannot afford. They're going to have to battle. They're going to have to be at their best almost every night because they're just not to the caliber just yet. Maybe building that way, but they're not to the caliber just yet where they can afford to take anybody lightly, and they've got to be at their absolute best for the games that are quote unquote winnable.
Yeah, absolutely. Hoping to speak to Alana Morris of Main Street Media tomorrow about this game and about Southeastern Conference women's basketball action. So join us tomorrow as we catch up with Alana and take a deeper look at SEC women's hoops. Speaking of women, the Lady Raiders continue to roll. Big win at Jacksonville State on Saturday, their 33rd straight in Conference USA action. I mean, they're just continuing to do what they do.
Absolutely. Just continuing to play well. The script is similar for almost every team. Try and win virtually every game at home, or regardless of what league you're in. Win as many as humanly possible at home, and then snag as many as you are fortunate enough to maybe grab on the road. However, that scale obviously tips a little bit differently when you're talking about a program of that caliber.
Yeah. The men pick up a big 81-64 win at the Glass House over Jacksonville State. Justin Porter with 29 points. Tori Alston with 11. Issam Mustafa with 22 and 9 boards. So, you know, we've talked a lot about this MTSU men's team between Joe and Chip, and we will have them on in the next couple of days. But this feels like, you know, the best team Nick McDevitt has had since he's been in Murfreesboro, and sounds like they are trying to capitalize on that.
Absolutely. And, you know, they've been lingering all season long, sub 150 in Ken Palm, which doesn't sound that great, but that's kind of the realm of your pretty dang solid mid-major, so to speak. Right. So MTSU currently sitting at 121 as of today's rankings. just kind of keep chipping away. This is a veteran team. Yeah, it feels like MTSU is going to be in a great shot. We're not talking about an at-large bid or anything for this team, but it feels like this is a squad, whether they win the regular season or not, they're going to be seasoned, and you do not want to see them in a do-or-die situation in the postseason.
Yeah. Memphis battled back from its loss at home to Houston on Thursday night, knocked off Minnesota Saturday night, 127-125. Ja only scored 12 points, but 2 of those were the game winner. So the Grizzlies got back in the win column. Now they go to Houston tonight, and apparently Ja's availability due to illness is up in the air for the rematch with the Rockets.
Yeah, sounds pretty familiar, right? This is just a murky stretch of the schedule for Memphis, and very similar to what we've just talked about on the college game. Memphis is just going to have to try and claw as many of these wins in this stretch as they can. Nice one getting – it was good. You certainly wanted the win at home versus the Rockets, and yeah, we talked about last week how they hit the 3 at the end that maybe would have forced overtime, but the game didn't go your way, and it kind of shows – I know Minnesota is not playing great ball by any stretch this year, certainly compared to last season. But that's a game that Memphis could have easily folded and kind of crumpled on the road. But the fact they were able to pick themselves up off the mat and get the win on the road because they were smack dab in the middle of a gauntlet here, that was a quality one for them up in Minnesota.
Yeah. Cleveland took a 12-game winning streak into its matchup with Indiana over the weekend, dropped a 108-93 decision. They've had 2 double-digit win streaks. We talked about the 15-0 start, and again, that 12-game streak that they ran out to 12 with wins over Oklahoma City and then Toronto on back-to-backs. But the 12-gamer has stopped, so they fall to what, 34-5? Is that right? 33-5, 34
5 losses, yeah.
Something. Yeah, 5 losses. Yeah, that's the big number, 33-5.
Yeah, and that one they're in great shape. I mean, they're still 5.5 clear of the Celtics, and they're still 8 clear of the Knicks. I mean, they're okay. That's one. Indiana has not been playing great this season compared to last year as well. So especially dropping that one at home. You're not going to lose too much sleep over it. You got to get right back to work. But, man, that's one you probably don't want to just be giving away if you're kind of trying to thrust yourself into that championship picture. They're still in pretty good shape.
Yeah. And, maybe it's one like that kind of answers the questions that I was asking last week. Why are the Cavaliers kind of being overlooked a little bit? Well, like you said, an Indiana team that hasn't been great beats you by 15, so it's kind of tough. But
got to go right back to Indiana on Tuesday. Tell you where the Pacers fan base is. I'm looking at ESPN. You can get in the door for $7. That's with Cleveland coming to town. So you would think you would win that game at home and then take your chances on the road, but they may have to settle for the reverse.
Preds give up 3 in the third, fall to Washington 4-1 on Saturday night. They continue their 5-game homestand tomorrow against Vegas. Ugh.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Pavia was there. Seamus was there. Everybody tried their best. We were all rooting for him, but it wasn't meant to be. There was a lot of Caps fans there.
There you go. That's going to do it for the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We will be joined again by Alana Morris talking women's basketball and Chip Walters talking MTSU. We will see y'all.